Boogie woogie oogie, my dudes. I just wanted to talk about the YBN Nahmir slander. A lot of people have been hating on YBN Nahmir over Soul Train, and I understand a lot of the criticism, and I think a lot of that criticism is valid. But if you ask me, YBN Nahmir deserves a lot more credit as opposed to getting clowned on all the time. As far as a whole is concerned, right? Like, I'm not gonna excuse something like Soul Train. He should know that that's not what his audience is interested in. I do appreciate the business play of being able to hear YBN Nahmir in like a Target, you feel me? Because that's a kid who is 21 years old and about it, from Alabama, you feel me? Like from somewhere not a lot of people are from in the rap game, has a unique experience. In my opinion, YBN Nahmir really brought up YBN as a whole, and I don't think you could even argue this, is that he was the figurehead, he was the main CEO basically of YBN. He brought up his two friends, and then his two friends kind of ditched him. He's still young. He probably didn't expect to be famous from the get-go. I don't think he was like, I'm gonna make Rubbing Off the Paint and I'm gonna be everywhere. I think he was like, I made Rubbing Off the Paint, I think it's 2 years ago now. Rubbing Off the Paint was 3 years ago. Opstoppa was 1 year ago. Bounce was 3 years ago. So he had two big songs 3 years ago, another big song a year ago that he put on his debut project. I respect not putting either of those other two songs, by the way, whether it be Bounce Out With That or just Rubbing Off the Paint. The fact that he didn't put either of those on his debut album is an insanely smart business play, because those 5,000 sales aren't representative of any singles really other than Opstoppa. And obviously they're not good numbers. But if you ask me, I think YBN Nahmir is a young kid who's just kind of figuring out where his footing is in the rap game while he's making money on a Atlantic record deal, you know? Like Atlantic Records, if you don't know, is where Uzi is currently signed to. They're notorious for doing stuff that is insanely poppy and forcing a hand on music that's being created, obviously as representative through Uzi. So Nahmir signed to the same record label. Probably that record label was like, you should make a song that could be played in Target. And now Nahmir's getting clowned on it. And I'm sure he's glad he's getting clowned on it, because he seems to be taking it in stride. There's no way that song was his idea. I really don't think it was. I think it was a label idea. And I don't think he has very much pull, because he waited so long to make his debut album that he needed to do certain things. Now, if you look at the people who are on his album, I think that's actually pretty good and representative of hip-hop culture. You got people like G Herbo, you got people like Ty Dolla $ign, you got people like Fatboy SSE, whom he's been around for a really long time. You got people like E40 and Too Short, you know? Obviously Soul Train isn't the kind of music I want YBN Nahmir making, but if you ask me, YBN Nahmir created something that was a moment in hip-hop. He put on a Grammy-nominated artist in Cordae, and his other friend YBN Almighty J didn't really do too much with it, but to say that he wasn't a personality in media for a while would be incorrect, and it's all because Nahmir put them on. And I'm assuming they still have a tight relationship, but it's just YBN isn't good for the brands anymore. And I think YBN Nahmir wanted, as I'm sure he publicly stated as well, again, young person, he wanted YBN to last forever. And who would blame him? He was the person who founded it. But as people left, I think YBN Nahmir found himself trying to fill another role, not just in the hip-hop game, but now he has to fill it without the people whom he wanted to start it with from the get-go. So he has to figure out a whole new business plan, and I think this first album is a result of, you didn't strike when the iron's hot, they're making your release now, but he doesn't really even know what he wants to do. So while people like to clown on it, and I think it's fair to be criticized, you're putting it out there, he could have probably had some influence in saying, no, we're doing and having a better performance in it, you know? He sounded on the performance like he didn't really want to be on that track. It seems like Atlantic was probably like, you need a song that can be played in Target, this is too hood, and made him release Soul Train. Like, that sucks if you're YBN Nahmir, right? Like, you don't want that to happen, you don't want to be in a bad label deal. I don't know how long he's in that label deal for, but I think they see how Cordae is doing, and they want him to be more like Cordae. Like, I think by bringing up the people who we brought up in YBN, and Cordae having the success that Cordae is having, and almost having more success than Nahmir at the moment, I would argue actually definitely having more success than Nahmir at the moment, you could see how maybe the label would be like, no, you got to change what you're doing. So I don't think he's fully to blame for this. Obviously, I hope he releases a self-aware Soul Train music video. I think that'd be really funny. It's been a while since the internet really banded together and called the song bad in the way that they have with like Rebecca Black's Friday, Ice JJ Fish. Not to equate this to that, but it's been a really long time since I've seen outright people just hating that song, and I think that's just a result of his core audience not wanting that product. But I'm curious if when this gets out to a mass audience, if people are gonna like it, because I don't know. It's really pop. It's just a pop record from YBN Nahmir. So if the pop audience likes that, I think YBN Nahmir might all of a sudden just be getting played in Targets, and that's just kind of nuts. You got to imagine that all this controversy is only creating more buzz around him that he didn't have before, you know? Good or bad, people are talking about Nahmir again.